Hello and welcome back to Adventurous Way. Today is another day of chipping.
That's right, we have the 9-inch chipper again today. This is the big one, the one that we rented the first time round. Shout out to Essex Equipment for supporting our project and giving us a discount on this rental. We're pretty excited to have this back because this thing is a beast and we have a lot to get through today.
So the goal for today is to chip 3 piles as our first priority. One is that is behind the place where our shipping container will go, and we want to chip that first so that we actually
don't block it in with the shipping container.
Exactly, we don't block it in. And then we have 2 piles at the bottom where we want to bring our RV for a weekend to just kind of have more space and clear it out. The challenge today is going to be these piles where the leftovers when we did the driveway. So they have been like smushed and moved with excavators, so they might be pretty densely packed.
Yeah, if you remember back to our first video with the 9-inch chipper, one of the lessons that we learned was don't compact the pile with our tractor. Don't kind of press it down to make it smaller. And the reason for that is it makes it really difficult to then pull those branches back out. Well, that's exactly what was done with these when the excavator just would have pushed everything into there. So these are going to be pretty compacted, we think. We also don't know exactly what's in all of these piles. They're pretty big piles, and I wasn't there when all of them were kind of created. So there could be some quite large things at the bottom. If they all fit in the chipper, honestly, we'll probably just chip them unless they look like good milling logs. But we may need to chainsaw a couple of them down just if they're too big for us to handle. We won't really know until we get stuck in. Fingers crossed we can get through these 3 piles today. It'll really clean it up. We are going to use the builder bags. So if you remember from before, we did this experiment trying to spray the wood chips into those yard bags that we can then move around with the tractor and dump the wood chips. Up here, we're going to try and use one of those bags and collect the chips that we can. Any that spray off into the forest, that's fine. They'll just fertilize the forest, and a lot of these trees will actually come down later anyway, and we're going to plant some new stuff in here, so it's no bad thing to have some wood chips on the forest floor. But if we can save some of them, we're going to take them down to the front where we've been spreading wood chips. When we get to the piles at the front, we're probably just going to spray those wood chips just straight into that area that we're working on. Yeah. The further slash pile, we may not be able to reach to blow them across, so we may use the builder bag again down there. But we got some options, so we'll see how things go.
So let's hope today goes smoothly. Let's get to work. Well, that is the first pile done.
Oh my gosh, it took us about an hour to do that pile. We're definitely a bit rusty with this chipper. We're not quite as quick as we were, I think, at the end of the first time doing it.
I think on the first glance it looked, oh, this pile is small. And then you take the tops off and it's logs and like, oh wow, this pile is really big. But in the end it turned out it only took an hour. Yeah,
no, we made good progress through it. A lot of big logs in there. You probably saw us with a chainsaw. That was kind of our plan if we hit lots of logs. You may have also noticed that I started off with our electric chainsaw and then moved on to our new chainsaw. So we started off this project really wanting to use the DeWalt cordless chainsaw, and honestly it worked really well. What we found is just, it wasn't that it didn't have the power. What it didn't seem to have was actually the durability. And cutting some of the hardwoods in particular, it would just really struggle with quality, I guess, of the parts inside. At the end of the day, that chainsaw is about $300 or so, including a battery and charger, which means in the grand scheme of things, the actual chainsaw part of that is probably like 150 bucks worth of tool. Yeah. Compare that to the new Husqvarna 550 XP Mark II that we've got, the gas chainsaw. That chainsaw alone was almost $700. So there really isn't a comparison in terms of cost and quality, therefore. The DeWalt really is more of a homeowner one. This is actually our second DeWalt cordless chainsaw. The first one broke. There is a small screw that holds the kind of the sprocket onto, I guess, the motor drive shaft. and that screw is really small. It's maybe a 1/2 inch, and it just completely stripped. And looking online, a couple of other people have run into this as well. The screw itself is cheap to buy. It's only $1 or $2. Unfortunately, it's a reverse threaded screw. So it's not one that we can just go into a normal kind of hardware store and replace. You kind of have to order one online. When the first one broke, it was after probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 hours worth of use. So it'd done a good amount of stuff for us. And I took it back into Home Depot. It was within the 3-month kind of returns period. No problems, they just swapped it. We thought we'll give the second one a go. Maybe it was just a faulty screw or something. I've been keeping a really close eye on the tension on that screw, just making sure it's not sort of wiggling loose. But again, it's doing the same thing. It was beginning to smoke this time. I imagine that screw is just completely stripped now. The chain was slipping, and you can't tighten it too much because it sort of bottoms out in that hole, I think. So it's kind of as tight as we could get it. As tight as it was, it stayed that tightness, I guess is what I'm saying. You can't tighten it more. So we, a few weeks ago, went out and bought the Husqvarna 550 XP Mark II. This is a 55cc gas chainsaw. It really is, in terms of build quality, no comparison. Power-wise, I would say it confirms my suspicion the other one is probably equivalent to about a 35cc gas chainsaw, the DeWalt one was. So this 155 is a lot more powerful. It's really nice. It's working really well for us. It cuts so much faster. It's got an 18-inch bar versus a 16-inch bar, which makes it a little bit easier just to reach in a few places. It's a little bit heavier than the DeWalt one, not a lot, but it's just a little bit. I was concerned about that going in. I'm not a big guy, and I'm sort of new to chainsaws still, so I didn't want something too big and unwieldy. But actually, the extra weight is kind of nice because when you rest it on a log to cut through it, you don't really want to be pressing down too hard. You kind of just want to let the weight of the saw do the work. The DeWalt one was almost so light, it wouldn't cut through on its own, so you sort of had to apply a little bit of pressure. And so it actually made the DeWalt one more tiring to use in my mind. I find it easier to work with the gas one. Yeah. So I whipped out the battery one this morning just to see if I could quickly cut some stuff, and it just couldn't do it.
So it's really, like, it can do, I mean, in the beginning we were doing pretty much all the stuff with that electric chainsaw. It's just the amount of stuff that we need chainsawing is a lot. Yeah,
I think for what it is, it's a great tool. It's definitely oriented at more the homeowner than something like what we're doing. And we kind of knew that going into it. We just thought, for all the benefits of batteries, if we can, there's no engine to maintain, it's quieter. There's just a lot of advantages going for it. But unfortunately for us, it didn't work out. However, if you're a homeowner and you're just looking for an easy chainsaw where you don't have to worry about having gas around, you just the occasional thing you need to just keep around to do some stuff on your property, I would still recommend the DeWalt. Maybe just order a couple of those screws to have in reserve.
Yeah. And in the future, when we're kind of done with the kind of site clearing, I suspect we might end up just having both chainsaws so that we can have easy one around, especially for me, less filling and defilling gas if you're just using it occasionally.
Yeah, and someone actually commented on one of our previous videos and said it wouldn't be a bad idea to have multiple chainsaws for different things. And actually, I agree. I think that's a really good point. Having the smaller chainsaw is nice for a few little quick things. And then, because you don't always want to, if you've just got one thing to cut, if you can just grab it off the shelf, throw a battery in and go, that's really easy. Versus having to get the gas one, fill up with gas and or mix the gas, fill it up with the gas, the chain oil as well, like all those other things as well. There's advantages. So, but anyway, enough talk. We're through pile one. That was probably the easy pile.
Yes.
So now we're going to head down to the bottom and tackle the two big slash piles. And honestly, if they're anything like this one, there's going to be a lot of logs hidden under there.
And it's going to generate a lot of wood chips.
Yeah, we more than filled 2 builder's bags over here.
Yeah.
We were planning to take these, like if we filled a bag, take it down to the bottom and dump it there. But we're going to have way too many chips at the bottom as it is.
So we'll have to move the ones from the bottom somewhere else.
So yeah, we may end up collecting some at the bottom to take up onto the trails or somewhere else, start a compost pile somewhere.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, time to head down and get chipping.
what a day.
That has been really, really tough going. Do you know what? I don't think we produced more chips than the first time we rented it. I think it's probably pretty similar, but it felt like so much harder work. And I think it's just because the piles were so compacted.
We tangled all together.
Yeah, we were using the tractor to start kind of like peeling layers off, which is okay. But I mean, even the tractor was struggling to lift some of it. Like it certainly couldn't lift from the bottom of the pile.
And it's the fact that it was like small and big all together, as opposed to first time we did it was separated.
Yeah, there was just branches, and there were even some trees with stumps still attached in there, and so it's just a lot of sort of context switching between feeding small branches, feeding a giant trunk, feeding or getting the chainsaw and taking a stump off, and
we're feeding a pile of pine needles.
Yeah, a lot of pine needles, which no surprise. I mean, it was pine trees that were felled, but yeah, a lot of pine needles, and so we didn't want to just like stuff those into the chipper. So we were trying to like just put a few in, and then make sure some branches went through and things as well. But the end result is we've got a couple of big piles of wood chips. One of those piles is more than enough to cover this area down here, I would think. The other pile we sort of put blocking the old logging trail. So just as an extra bit of like, please don't drive up there anymore. So that should work pretty well, I think. We may bag these up at some point and move them. We've still got those 2 bags that we filled up at the top that we need to do something with. So not quite sure what we'll do with them all yet, but we'll have plenty of uses for them, whether mulching the ground or putting on the trails or
just
whatever.
leaving as a compost.
Or just leaving them to compost for a year or more. Once again, the the Vermeer 9-inch, the
9-inch
BC 900 XL chipper from Essex Equipment has been stunning, so powerful. We did manage to block it once today. It was like, I think the butt end of a log that was, I think, a little bit rotten at the end, as it was just softer, and it kind of, as the chipper just got to the end of that log, it kind of twisted it up inside and just wedged it in there. So we were able to open that up and get it removed. Only took, what, 15-20 minutes?
And handy dandy manual explains exactly how to unblock if things get blocked. Which they do time to time.
Exactly. So no, really happy with the chipper. That's been great. And again, thank you to Essex Equipment for supporting the project with a discount on that for us. For us, we are exhausted. We are disgustingly sweaty and horrible.
And dirty.
And dirty. It is just coming up to 4 o'clock here today. So we just need to get some things tidied up before we hit the road and get the chipper back before they close.
And this is such hard work that I'm definitely up for doing it only one day at a time. I can't imagine, at least for now, to rent it for a week at a time. Like, that would be just very hard on the body. Yeah,
they do like daily, weekly, monthly rentals of a lot of their equipment. And so obviously if you get it for a week, it's cheaper than 7 times a daily. And if you get it for a month, it's cheaper than the equivalent daily or weekly would be. But to make the most of it, you sort of want to be using it most of that time. We're not contractors with a job site that we can sort of rotate people between, or that we just need to have on site the whole time. I don't think I'm ready for even 2 days in a row of this chipper at the moment.
So I'm happy to wait a little bit longer to get that slash to dry some more as well.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done already, and follow along as we build our dream home here in Vermont.
Because today we had a new idea. What if we built a solar kiln? Not gonna happen right away, but I think this year we might be up for that.